Okay, so welcome to Slamm Technologies, and this is going to be our interview forum tonight. We have one of our own, Omo, who we're going to be interviewing. And so I will start. As you always know, I start by introducing myself as the candidate. And I'm the supervisor for this company, Slamm Technologies. And the position that we have is the cybersecurity analyst or cybersecurity specialist position. This position requires you to have the abilities to investigate, analyze, and do all the necessary SOC analyst information. Today, we have a candidate who is Ms. Omo. And my background here is security analyst supervisor. I supervise the group. I make sure tickets are done on time. I make sure that they are all working together as a team. And so, without going much details, I just want to give the opportunity to ask Ms. Omo to tell us about herself and to introduce herself to us and tell us how she fits in the position that she applied. So.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Burton. Thank you for taking this time.
Welcome.
Thank you for taking this time to interview me. Like you said, you introduced yourself. I would like to take this opportunity to introduce myself. My name is Omo Farin, and I have been in the IT industry for a number of years. I started out as a technical analyst, and when I started out in the software lifecycle, I was part of a team that supported the global intranet for a Fortune 500 company. And while I was doing that, working with both the analysis team, a testing team, and the development team, was actually invited to step up to be the project manager for the team based on my interactions with the team. And but in the last few years, I have moved into the cybersecurity field, just because that field has fascinated me, and that's what I've been doing. When I saw this position opened and advertised, it definitely fits into my desire for where I want to step in the next few years, and that's why I applied for this role, and that's why I feel like I'll be a good fit for this role.
Now, thank you very much, Omo. I'm glad that you've taken your time to join us here. And, this field is very exciting. And I'm going to ask you some few questions.
Okay.
If you do not, some are technical, some are not.
Okay.
And if you do not feel like you do not want to answer, or maybe you're not ready for the answer, just say skip. And
okay.
All right. So over here, we have different type of SIM that we use.
Okay.
And tell us some of the SIM tool that you've used and how you use them.
Okay. I've used a couple of them. One was ArcSight, and but most especially and recently is the Splunk SIM. The SIMs in general are something I'm very excited about, just because they aggregate all the log files that we have to use in the industry. It makes us very aware of what's going on across the whole system, but in one place. And I normally when I use the SIM, I use the dashboard. I create certain reports. I use certain reports that are already created for the department. But like I said, it's a great tool. It's a great aggregator. And that's how I use it. I use it mostly to check out the logs that we use in the system.
All right. And what type of SIM have you used in the past or presently using?
Splunk.
Splunk.
Yeah,
all right.
Splunk Enterprise.
Give me an idea, one of the dashboard that you've created. Have you created any dashboard, or it was only for the content engineers that created them?
Actually, mostly the content engineers created them, but of recent, I've been able to create a few of my own. Like I said, they have dashboards already created, but like one I created recently was just to be able to get to one. I wanted to be able to see on one view all the users that have logged in the particular department I'm responsible to just monitor is the sales department. And I wanted to see from 8 to 5 every weekday who the users are, just specifically, it's a small group in the sales department. And I wanted to be able to view those. So I created a dashboard for that.
That is wonderful. So, do you know what an alert is?
Oh, yeah. Alert is something that's based on a rule that has been created. And it's very specific based on what you want to see. So, for instance, an alert, for instance, like the dashboard I create, or like a rule or use case I created was to let me know if a particular user has failed login 3 consecutive times in a day. And the rule says to send an alert, which came in the form of an email actually to the mailbox. So that's an alert, just lets you know that a rule has been met.
So failed login attempts.
Yes.
Yeah, that is so great. Now, have you heard about endpoint devices before?
Yeah, generally I know the EDRs are definitely, endpoints are different devices that we have on the system, yes.
Now, have you used any of those before?
Actually, for my job specifically, I don't really use them, but I'm aware of them, yes.
Okay. And let me ask you a quick question here. What is the difference between a hash and encryption?
Oh, that's interesting. They're similar. Before I even talk about the difference, I want to talk about the similarity. The similarity is that they're both security measures used to change readable data into unreadable data. But the main difference between those two is their purpose and when we've changed them into unreadable data. Now, an encryption, the purpose of encryption is we want to make sure the data is secure, confidential, I'm sorry. And a hash is when we want to ensure integrity. Now, the main difference between those two is that when you have an encrypted data, you can decrypt it. But when you have a hash, it's a one-way conversion. You can't unhash something. So that's the critical difference between an encryption and a hash.
That is wonderful. Do you know, do you have an example of an encryption that you've
encryption logs? We could have DES, 3DS, AES being the most popular used right now, yes.
All right. So what is the difference between symmetric and asymmetric?
Oh, okay. It's part of ways you can encrypt data. The main difference between those two are the number of keys that are used. For symmetric data, for instance, we use one key. The same key we use to encrypt a data is the same key we use to decrypt. Asymmetric, we use what we call a private public key pair, use 2 keys. So that's the main difference between those two types of encryption.
That is excellent. Now, okay. I believe you know what a ransomware is.
Yes, it is. A lot of us have heard this on the news so far. So ransomware actually is something that a threat actor does where they encrypt pieces of, actually, what I should say, not just encrypt, they illegally encrypt people's data. And then they ask the people that they've encrypted their data to send them some sort of money, usually cryptocurrencies, since it's not traceable, so that they can get the decryption key. And so that's what we call ransomware.
And so in the case of ransomware, you talk about some measures over here. What exactly is the hacker trying to do to the user? Okay,
sometimes the ultimate goal is they want money. But the way they do it is sometimes they'll corrupt the data, or they'll just sometimes the data is corrupted where you can't even retrieve it, and sometimes it's just encrypted and they will give you a decryption key so you can get your data back.
That is the word I'm looking for, the encryption.
Yeah. Okay.
So give me one of the names of the ransomwares if you are familiar with some of them.
Ooh. That's funny. As popular as they are, you think I'll be able to track one, and I can't even get one out of my head right now.
Something like the one that cries and
okay.
all of that.
Okay.
Yes. So that is excellent. So what is the Cia Triad?
Oh, the Cia Triad. That's what it's a security model that a lot of organizations use to make sure that their systems are secure. And CIA is actually an acronym, which means stands for C stands for confidentiality, I stands for integrity, and A stands for availability. So what we're trying to ensure here when we implement the Cia Triad in our system, we want to make sure our system is confidential, and that's where encryption comes in. We want to make sure only people that are authorized to view our data can view the data. We want to make sure the integrity of the data has been preserved. That means our data, either at rest or in transit, no matter what state it is, has not been modified or corrupted. And we talked about hashing before. And then if the data is not available when a user uses it, it's useless. And that's the third part of the triad.
That is wonderful. And, what's the difference between vulnerability assessment and a penetration testing? Have you, been involved in that kind of process?
Yes. As you know, we have even though we have a department that does the vulnerability tests, in my current job, I do take part in those vulnerability assessments. And when we talk about vulnerability assessment, it's a test we do on our systems to make sure we don't have any security gaps, to try to make sure we don't have any weaknesses in our system. That's what a vulnerability assessment is. And if there are any, we'll list them and prioritize them, how we'll fix those gaps. And as opposed to a penetration testing, where penetration testing happens where you actually exploit whatever weaknesses we find. So those are the main difference. Vulnerability assessment is just we're looking for any weaknesses, any gaps, and then the penetration testing is saying, can we go ahead and exploit it?
So, so with the vulnerabilities, have you heard about the CVE and what does it stand for?
Oh, this is where we're looking at any vulnerabilities out there. It's a website we can go to and see all the common vulnerabilities that are out there. It could be vulnerabilities related to applications, devices. It's something that we use to make sure we don't have any of those vulnerabilities in our systems.
All right, great. And, so how are vulnerabilities, threat, and risks connected?
Oh, yeah. So like I said before, a vulnerability could be a gap, a security gap. It could be a weakness. So if you find that there's a vulnerability, that's on itself, it's something that threat actors or people or something that could harm the system. A threat is something or someone that could harm the system. So if a threat actor sees a vulnerability and goes ahead and exploits it, well, the damage that can come from that system is what the risk is. So I always say, if there's no threat actor, there's no threat, then there's no risk. So that's how they're connected.
Yeah. So since we talk about the threat and the risks, what is an exploit?
So an exploit is what is done to take advantage of a vulnerability that is found. Mm-hmm. So it's actually, an exploit is actually like a weapon that takes advantage of any vulnerability or any gaps you have in your system. Mm-hmm. So it could be a virus, it could be a worm, but yeah.
All right, so, let's do this. Have you analyzed phishing before?
Yes, I have.
Can you give me the process in which you analyze those phishing attempts?
Okay, so this is what I normally, in the current role I am. Normally, first of all, we educated our users as to being able to identify a potential phishing. And when we say phishing, we're talking about threat actors sending emails to unsuspecting users, hoping to gain access through them, to get them to click on the wrong list, a link that might take them to a site, or to even open up an attachment on their computer that would release an exploit of some sort. So what normally happens is that the users will send an email to us to say, hey, this is something I received. Can you please investigate to make sure that this is safe or not safe? And normally what we will do is we will save that email with that suspected threat or suspected phishing email into an environment that is not susceptible to the production environment. And then from there, we'll go ahead and, first of all, if it's an email with a link, we'll go ahead. We don't open up the link right there in the environment. We'll copy the link and, go ahead and investigate using maybe websites like VirusTotal or other websites that can analyze to see if they see any signatures in that link in the past. And from there, we'll see if it's a safe link, a safe URL.
All right, that is great. And give me another, besides the phishing, what other, exploit or maybe malware have you investigated that you can probably share with us?
I'll skip. Let me skip that one.
You skip that one, okay. All right, that is good. So what does a DNS port? Give me a port that runs on a DNS, that runs on a TCP and a UDP port.
Skip, man. It's too late in the evening for this.
All right. So what is the difference between TLS and an SSL?
Oh, okay. Well, the interesting thing is right now, they're both used to, for secure different protocols, but right now we're using more SSL because TLS is regarded as deprecated right now.
Okay. Now, we're moving close to the end of our interview. So let me ask you this one. And tell me about a time, where things weren't going right in your department and how you were essentially able to fix those things that weren't going right.
Okay. I could give you an example. When I mentioned the project I was working on, where I was initially the technical analyst and I was invited to be the project manager. So what happened is there was actually a lot of conflicts within the testing the testing department and the development department. So the problem was a lot of blame was being assigned. And at that point, the project manager for the project actually moved to another assignment and I was asked to step in this role. But then one thing my manager told me is that what is happening right now, if the teams cannot work together, we may have to be removed from the project. And I was new to the project as the project manager. So what I ended up doing is, one thing I realized is most people, if you just listen to somebody for 5 minutes, you can tell where they're coming from. Mm-hmm. Most employees or most workers actually are there for the good of the project. So if there's any strife, you need to understand what's going on. So what I ended up doing is I met with the development manager, I met with the testing manager, and I realized that they both did not understand where each other were coming from. They felt like they were being blamed for things that were going wrong with the project. So all I ended up doing is I reminded both managers individually, the big picture. I said, I know you're defending your team. They're both defending their teams, but I told them, I said, if we can't come to a basis or a point of understanding, we are all going to be taken off the project. Mm-hmm. And so what I ended up doing is I just had them meet one-on-one and resolve the issues that they had. And I told them, let's get a fresh start so we could see this project from, the big picture, because in the end, the business stakeholders, they don't care who's at fault. They just want to see the project go carried on. Yeah. And from then on, it was smooth sailing until the end of the project. It was, I stayed 2 more years on that project and it was great. We didn't have any problems with that going forward.
All right, so the last but not the least question is, do you know what MITRE attack is? MITRE.
Oh, the MITRE is actually a framework that was put together to help people go through like an attack, to understand threat actors, to understand the purpose of threat actors, and just to follow them for you to guess what their next steps would be. So it's a framework that was put together for that. Yeah.
That is good. What about the TTP?
TTPs, they're similar. They're, tactics, techniques, and procedures. There are also different rules that will help you follow, first of all, the tactics, see what the threat actors are planning, how they're planning, how they plan to execute. So the tactics, techniques, and procedures of threat actors and how to counter all those attacks.
That is great. So, I said my final question, but then let's take this as a final one. Do you do the right thing or do you do do you do the right thing or do you do things right? Which one?
Actually, I don't think they are mutually exclusive. I think I do both. I don't have to choose one or the other. I do the right things and I do things right.
So morally, don't you think, doing the right thing sometimes will make you feel like you are proud?
Yeah, especially like, so if you do the right thing, no matter what comes out in the end, you feel you have a clear conscience. So that's why I feel like you should do both.
So I believe, do the things right.
Do things right and do the right thing.
It's the best thing rather than, it's a moral conscious effort where, that is pretty much, it's not part of the question, but just to ask you, which one do you think? Because I feel like doing the right thing, sometimes makes people feel like they know. And you are going to work with a team.
Yeah.
So, so give me a conflict resolution where you were able to resolve that problem based on the right thing and then doing the right thing and then doing
things right. Okay. I can give an example. So I had, I was also a project lead on this project. And I had an employee. He had revealed to me that he was working 2 jobs. He was working a night job and this job during the day. But one thing that I noticed, sometimes when I'll go find him in the cubicle, he'll be sleeping in the cubicle as opposed to working. And like I said, it's a project, we're contractors. So I knew, morally, I was trying to support him, but I gave him a warning and I said, the next time I find you doing this, we're going to have to let you go off the project.
Yes.
And yes, the next time we saw him, unfortunately, it wasn't me that found him. It was actually the person who hired us for the project, and he was fired on the spot. Now, I felt like I did the right thing because I gave him a warning the first time. And, we did get a reprimand, but I didn't feel bad that I didn't fire him immediately. I felt I did the right thing. I gave him a chance, but he in the end was the one who lost the job on his own. So that's an example I could give where I feel like I did the right thing, and even though it didn't come out right, but I did the right thing.
That is wonderful. So, I think that is all I have for my questions. Do you have any questions for me?
Yes, I would like to know, for this role that you're interviewing me for, do you feel like I would fit this position based on the information I've given you? What do you think the person that will excel at this role will be able to bring to this job? And do you think I fit based on what you've asked me?
I believe you've answered more than 90% questions right.
Okay.
And so based on that, I will say, yes, you'll fit in the role perfectly.
Okay.
And yes,
okay,
but we are still going through interviews. So definitely we will let you know the outcome by the end of the day.
By the end of the day. Okay. Thank you so much again for taking this time to interview me.
Do you have any other question?
No, I thank you so much. Like I said, I appreciate the opportunity and I do feel like I'll be a great asset to your company.
Thank you very much for choosing Slamm Technologies, and you will hear from us very soon.
Thank you.
All right, so we sign off. Okay. All right, so guys, we sign off with an interview here with Oma. Oma did well. Alton clap for her. And so, what I believe happened here was Oma was just right on point. And Omo, you didn't have to go. We are talking.
Well, I'm here.
Okay, you are still there. Okay.
Yeah.
So, if I may ask you, how did you feel when you say skip the question?
Oh, okay. So immediately you asked the question, my mind just went blank. My mind went blank. So I was like, instead of faltering and, stammering, I felt like that would come across as being very
polite and
weak. Yeah. So I just said, I just prefer to still keep my poise. That's why I said skip.
Perfect. And, were you nervous at any point when, before and after and during the interview?
Definitely. Definitely.
But we didn't see it. Can you give us some of your secret? What made you stand up and talk confidently?
I believe before any interview, tell yourself, if not me, this is the a proverb I tell myself. I say, if not me, then who? Mm-hmm. And I feel like everybody that's interviewing for the same role has the same chance as you. You have to believe in yourself. And the more you believe in yourself, the more confident you come across. If you don't come across as confident, you're pretty much telling the people interviewing you that, oh, this person doesn't know what they're doing. So you need to convince yourself first. So I have to convince myself first. And when I convince myself that, yes, I can do this, it come across on my face, it will come across on my speech, it will come across on my eyes. One thing I try to also do, I'll ask myself random questions and I'll watch myself either in the mirror or I'll record myself so I can see what the interviewer sees. If I feel like I have any nervous tells, like something that lets them know I'm nervous, if I can watch it on the video, I try to eliminate that. Because normally when I'm nervous, I might do things like fiddle with my hair or fiddle with my fingers. If I've recorded myself and I see myself doing any of that stuff, I have to remind myself, don't do that when you're interviewing. So that's how I prepare not to show any kind of nervousness.
That is wonderful. Do anybody have any question for Ms. Omo? I believe she did very well, and by staying on point, and although the interviewer is not looking for you to answer all the questions, you know, that is what you have to know. They want you to be more positive, right? More energetic, you know, when you are answering the questions. And so you do not have to be afraid. It's not getting the answers right that gets you hired. It is your positive attitude and how you are able to connect with the team. Because what they want to know is you are able to, you know, talk to the team, not angry, not disturbed, and how you compose yourself. That is what gets you into the job. Like yesterday, we saw when Reynard, you know, went through the interview. Of course, you are not expecting to get everything right. Some, when you get it wrong, the best thing you tell them is to skip, right? As you looked into Oma's posture, look into her face, her eyes, she was rightly looking into the camera. Some of you have some cheater nose somewhere else like this, and so your eyes is going everywhere. They are looking over your body. They are looking into the language that you are exhibiting at the time. And so you have to stay focused, look into the camera. You see your camera is at the top there. Look into it and to communicate to them. If you don't know what, skip. I mean, it's much better you skip than letting them, you know, bringing you down, because you get to a point, you realize you're losing your voice. Because that is a sign of nervousness, because at that moment you realize, oh my goodness, where are they taking me to? Skip that question. Don't waste your time and just start thinking about right? You don't want to waste your time and you don't want them to waste your time. And that is what it is all about. All right, so if there's no question, I'm going to end the interview here, but I'm going to continue with, you know, with endpoint detection and response, you know, training as we're going through. But we want to say very big thank you to Ms. Omo for joining us tonight. It's been a pleasure, and, you know, we love the way she came up. Everything was just right on point.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Very good.
Thank you, Alton. I was wondering, I was like, Alton's not going to say anything. Gee.
Alton didn't say anything, so, you know.
It was, I will hire you twice.
Okay.
He's eating his dinner or something like that, so he couldn't talk.
Okay.
Yes. So that is, you know, what we have. And thank you, Oma. And so I know you wanted to run away from the camera.
How you know? But I'm here. I'm just off camera.
Perfect. So that is great. All right. So class, you know, we are continuing. I'm going to stop this recording.